They thought they had me cornered. Last month, my parents marched into my apartment with a realtor in tow, papers already printed, smiles sharpened into threats. "Sign it, Emma," my father ordered. "Sell your grandmother's house to Melissa, or you're out of this family forever." Imagine that. The one place that ever felt like home, the one gift my grandmother left only to me, was suddenly treated like a bargaining chip for my younger sister's promotion. Melissa stood there, crocodile tears and all, talking about how she needed the space to host clients. Needed. She already had everything: private schools, endless tutors, vacations abroad, while I scraped by with part-time jobs and hand-me-down laptops. But here's the thing. They didn't know. 3 days earlier, I had already signed the deed. And when they saw who stood inside that house waiting for them, their perfect little plan exploded. What did I do next? It shocked them all. My name is Emma Reynolds. I'm 29 years old, a financial consultant living in Austin, Texas. On paper, I'm successful. My own clients, a respectable income, a path to senior partner in the next 5 years. But paper never tells the whole story. Picture this. A one-bedroom apartment off Riverside. Walls thin enough that I can hear the upstairs couple argue every night. My view? Not downtown lights, but a parking lot littered with cracked asphalt and faded paint lines. Still, I kept that place spotless. White orchid on the windowsill, neatly stacked files on my desk, color-coded calendars taped to the fridge. Work, success, loneliness. That was my life in 3 words. I had built it all without family help. While Melissa, my younger sister, breezed through college on my parents' dime, I juggled 3 part-time jobs to pay tuition at a state school. Nights in the library shelving books, weekend tutoring in high school math, summers spent time temping at law firms, learning the fine print of contracts while Melissa danced at summer camps in Paris. You'd think independence would earn respect. It didn't. In my family's dictionary, independent was code for invisible. Every time my parents bragged about Melissa's latest accomplishment, her ballet recital, her art showcase, her newest promotion, they added a disclaimer about me. Emma doesn't need much. She's fine on her own translation. Emma doesn't deserve what Melissa deserves. I tried not to care. I told myself I was stronger this way, but strength can feel like exile when you're the only one holding yourself up. There were nights I'd come home after 12 hours of spreadsheets, pour a glass of cheap red wine, and stand by the window staring at the skyline I couldn't quite afford. Austin glittered in the distance, bars humming with music, condos glowing with rooftop pools, a city full of people living larger, louder, freer. And there I was, in my silence, convincing myself this was enough. Except, of course, it wasn't. The truth? I longed for recognition, not gifts or vacations. Just someone in my family to look me in the eye and say, "Emma, we're proud of you." Instead, every achievement was met with a shrug. I passed my CPA exams on the first try. Dad grunted. Good. Melissa posted a photo of a latte art heart on Instagram. Mom shared it with 30 relatives. That imbalance, that constant reminder that I was an afterthought, etched itself into me. It hurt, it hardened, and it shaped the way I looked at love, at loyalty, at myself. And yet, here's the part I never admit out loud, I still craved their approval. Every time I earned a new client, every time I hit a savings milestone, a secret piece of me thought, maybe now they'll notice. Maybe now they'll see me. But they never did. The only person who ever truly saw me was my grandmother, Eleanor. She was quiet too, but not invisible. She noticed everything. She remembered every exam I passed, every late-night phone call when I cried about being overlooked. She once told me, lavender perfume filling the kitchen as she held my hand, "They don't love Melissa more, Emma. They love themselves more, and Melissa reflects what they wish they were. You reflect who they actually are, hardworking, real. And that terrifies them. I lived on those words. They were armor when my parents forgot my birthday, comfort when Melissa's failures were celebrated louder than my successes. So when my grandmother died and left me her house, the house with the wraparound porch and the rose garden we planted together, I thought, finally, something that couldn't be stolen or dismissed. I was wrong, because in my family, nothing that belonged to me was ever truly mine. Growing up in the Reynolds household meant learning a brutal truth early. Love was not unconditional. It was transactional. And in every transaction, Melissa always came out ahead. When I was 7, I begged to join the debate club. The fee was $200. Dad shook his head, muttering about tight budgets. That same week, Melissa was enrolled in ballet lessons with a $2,000 tuition and a brand new pair of imported point shoes. She has talent, Mom insisted. We have to invest in her future. I remember standing barefoot on the kitchen tiles, my report card clutched in hand, straight A's lined up like soldiers. Dad barely glanced at it before asking, "Did you see Melissa's art project?" "It's being displayed at the district fair." My perfect grades were expected. Melissa's glitter and glue collage was a miracle. The pattern never changed. Summer camps in Europe for her, summer shifts at the library for me. A $3,000 MacBook for her creative pursuits, while I was told to make do with the dusty Dell that crashed every 20 minutes. 3 words defined my childhood: unseen, unchosen, uncelebrated. The nights hurt most. I would sit alone at the kitchen table, worksheets spread out, while Mom curled Melissa's hair for yet another recital. The house smelled of hairspray and perfume, but the only scent I clung to was Grandma Eleanor's lavender hand cream when she slipped into my room later. She would kneel by my bed, kiss my forehead, and whisper, "How's my brilliant girl? Show me your robotics project." It wasn't just favoritism, it was erasure. My parents didn't forget me by accident, they forgot me by design. I'll never forget the sting of my 16th birthday. I came home hopeful. Maybe this year would be different. Instead, silence. No cake, no calls, no celebration. Then, scrolling Facebook, I saw Mom's post. "Shopping day with my baby girl, so blessed." A photo of her and Melissa at Nordstrom, champagne glasses raised. My heart cracked in that exact moment. That night, I crept into Grandma's garden. The roses were in bloom, pink petals glistening under the porch light. I whispered into the night, "Why not me? Why do they never choose me?" Grandma found me there, sat beside me, and held me until the sobs stopped. "They don't see your worth because it scares them," she said. "But this house, this garden, it will always remind you that you're enough." That garden became my sanctuary. I learned to prune thorns, to nurture fragile stems, to coax beauty from soil. It was where I discovered patience, resilience, and the idea that care could make anything grow, even me. Foreshadowing was everywhere, though I didn't know it then. Grandma kept a folder of my essays, framed my first business card, whispered secrets like, "One day you'll have more than just my love to remember me by." I thought she meant photos or jewelry. I never guessed she meant the house itself. Melissa, meanwhile, floated through life like a paper boat, always buoyed by parental applause. Failed courses, excused as finding herself. Another impulsive relationship? Called exploring her freedom. Every stumble of hers was treated like art. Every triumph of mine was treated like duty. Even when I graduated with honors, my parents texted a flat, "Congratulations." When Melissa finally scraped her way to a degree 2 years late, they threw a party for 50 people, complete with a photographer and custom cake. Celebrating our shining star's journey. I stopped hoping after that. Hope only cuts deeper when it collides with reality. Still, the scars never faded. They became part of me, proof that I was always the shadow to Melissa's spotlight. And yet, in that shadow, I grew sharper, harder, more determined. Because when no one notices your victories, you start building victories no one can take. The day of the betrayal started deceptively ordinary. A Tuesday afternoon, warm Austin sun beating down, the air heavy with the smell of cut grass and barbecue drifting from a neighbor's yard. I came home from work, briefcase in hand, ready for nothing more dramatic than leftover pasta. Instead, I opened my apartment door to find my parents sitting on the couch with a stranger, a woman in a red blazer, a folder balanced on her knees. A realtor. My stomach dropped. "Emma," Mom said brightly, as if this were a surprise party. "We've been talking about Grandma's house. It's too big for you. Too much responsibility. Melissa needs it more. We already have a buyer lined up." Her voice was honey, but her eyes were steel. Dad slid a stack of papers across my coffee table. His tone carried no room for argument. "Sign. We'll split the proceeds. It's fair. Otherwise..." His pause was deliberate, practiced. "You're out of this family." I froze. My grandmother's house, the wraparound porch, the rose garden, the kitchen that smelled of lavender and apple pie, was not just real estate. It was the only place that ever felt like home. The will had been clear. The house was mine. And yet here they were, treating it like communal property, like another gift to hand Melissa. Melissa herself perched beside them, mascara already smudged as she whispered, "Emma, please. You already have an apartment. I need the house for my promotion, for entertaining clients. You don't understand the pressure I'm under." Pressure? I thought of her luxury apartment, her parents' funded wardrobe, her endless lifelines. Pressure was juggling 3 jobs to pay tuition. Pressure was surviving alone. The realtor leaned forward, papers rustling. "It's a strong market. If we list today, you'll have multiple offers by Friday. You'd each walk away with plenty. Each. As if I hadn't earned it alone. As if Grandma's will meant nothing." The air thickened. My chest tightened. Rage, sorrow, disbelief, shock, anger. Resolve. For a moment I considered giving in. Old habits die hard. Keeping the peace had been my role since childhood. The strong one, the independent one, the expendable one. Maybe if I signed, the storm would pass. Maybe they'd finally see me as generous. But then my eyes caught the photo frame on my shelf. Grandma and me in the garden, our hands stained with soil, her smile proud. "This house will protect you," she had whispered. A chill ran through me, steadying my pulse. I looked up at my parents. The will is clear. The house is mine. Dad's face darkened, veins rising in his temple. "Don't be difficult. Family shares, family sacrifices. Like you shared tuition? Like you shared birthdays? Like you shared even 1 ounce of pride in me?" The words slipped out, sharp as broken glass. Silence. Melissa dabbed her eyes. Mom's lips pinched into a thin line. The realtor pushed the pen closer. Dad's voice dropped, lethal. "Sign, or you're no longer our daughter." My hands trembled. For a split second I almost broke. Almost. But something stronger anchored me. Anger honed by years of neglect. The memory of every forgotten birthday, every dismissed achievement. I slid the papers back across the table. "No." The room erupted. Mom shouting about selfishness, Dad threatening lawyers, Melissa sobbing like a child. The noise clanged in my ears, and then a single, still moment. Me standing in my own apartment, hands shaking, but spine straight. That night, long after they stormed out, I sat alone in the quiet. The orchid on my windowsill glowed under the moonlight. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Emma, This is Daniel Wu. I heard you may be selling a property on Maple Avenue. I'm interested. Can we talk? My heart stuttered. Daniel Wu, CEO of the very company where Melissa had just been promoted. My old college acquaintance is now one of the most powerful men in Austin's tech scene. I stared at Dad's ultimatum still glowing on my screen. Sign or be disowned. Then at Daniel's message, I'm interested. And for the first time that night, I smiled. That night, after the shouting faded and the door slammed behind them, my apartment felt hollow. The silence was louder than their voices had been. I curled up on the couch, papers still strewn across the table like evidence of a crime. My crime? Refusing to sacrifice myself yet again. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I replayed every word in my head. Dad's ultimatum, Mom's icy tone, Melissa's practiced sobs. You're no longer our daughter. That line cut deepest. I had always been the afterthought, but hearing it declared so plainly, that was a wound no bandage could cover. For hours I stared at the ceiling. Was I selfish? Was I the problem? Or was this the first time I'd finally said no? I reached for my phone, scrolling through old photos of Grandma's house, the porch light glowing at dusk, the roses blooming in May, the kitchen table where she taught me to balance a checkbook before I could even drive. Memories layered over memories. That house wasn't just property. It was proof that someone had seen me, chosen me, loved me. But love had a way of becoming leverage in my family's hands. They would twist it until it broke. My phone buzzed again. The message still glowed. Daniel Wu. Interested in the property. Can we talk? Daniel? I hadn't thought of him in years. Back in college, he was the guy who always finished group projects 2 days early, who remembered everyone's name, who made professors laugh. He'd gone on to build an empire, while I built walls to survive my family. And now he was back in my life, right when I needed an ally. Coincidence? Or something else? I typed out a reply, then erased it. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Could I really sell the house to him? Would that make me no better than the family accusing me of selfishness? The battle inside me raged. If I sell, I'm betraying Grandma's gift. If I don't, they'll destroy me trying to take it anyway. If I wait, I'll lose everything. Shock, doubt, determination. I stood and walked to the window. Outside, the orchid on the sill glowed under the street lamp. Its petals were fragile but resilient, blooming despite neglect. I whispered to it like I used to whisper to Grandma's roses. What should I do? The stillness gave me my answer. Grandma had never taught me to fight with noise. She taught me to fight with strategy. Chess, not checkers. Contracts, not tears. I sat back down, picked up my phone, and typed, "Hi, Daniel. Yes, I'd like to talk. But it needs to stay confidential, for now." His reply was instant. Understood. Tonight works. And Emma, this time, you call the shots. I exhaled slowly, the first real breath I'd taken all day. My family thought they'd cornered me. But maybe, just maybe, they had walked into a trap of their own making. On the coffee table, the unsigned realtor papers lay crumpled. I picked them up, folded them neatly, and slipped them into a drawer. Out of sight, out of reach. In their place, I set down Grandma's old brass key, the one she pressed into my hand when I was 16, whispering, "This house will protect you someday." I hadn't understood then, but I did now. The storm wasn't over. It was only the beginning. The next morning, my phone lit up at 6:07 a.m. with the first message. Mom. Emma, family means sharing. Don't make us beg. Think of Melissa's future by 6:15. Another ping. Dad, you're being unreasonable. This isn't about you. It's about what's best for everyone. And then, at 6:32, Melissa herself. I can't stop crying. You already have a place. I don't. Please don't ruin my life. The flood didn't stop. Every hour, another message. Aunt Karen chimed in with family unity matters more than property. Uncle Bill added, don't let greed divide you. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly cared enough to guilt-trip me. The words blurred together until they became a single chorus: selfish, cold, unfair. By noon, my notifications were a wall of judgment: 37 texts, 9 voicemails, all scripted in the same language, like someone had handed out talking points. I could practically hear Mom orchestrating it, phone in hand, whispering the lines. Remind her Melissa is fragile. Remind her grandma would want peace. Fragile. That word gnawed at me. Melissa had always been the fragile one. The one who needed protection, money, second chances. She was 26 years old, earning a manager's salary at one of Austin's biggest tech firms, yet somehow still treated like a porcelain doll. Meanwhile, I was expected to carry the weight of being the strong one, strong enough to be ignored, strong enough to be sacrificed. At 3 p.m., my phone buzzed again. This time, a group text with nearly a dozen family members. Aunt Karen. Emma, don't let property come between sisters. Uncle Bill. Think about holidays. Do you want to sit alone? Cousin Jenna. Melissa has always been delicate. You're tough. She needs this. More, I stared at the screen, heat rising in my chest. Their words weren't pleas. They were demands dressed as love. I turned my phone face down on the counter. For 5 blessed seconds, silence. Then the landline rang. Yes, I still had a landline, left over from a bundled internet plan. Hardly anyone knew the number, which meant the person calling had gone out of their way to find it. Emma? My father's voice boomed even before I said hello. You're embarrassing this family. Either you sign and do the right thing, or you'll be cut off. Permanently cut off. Permanently. I wanted to laugh, as if they hadn't cut me off emotionally years ago, but the child inside me still flinched at his tone. Still remember nights of being told, don't be difficult, whenever I wanted something for myself. I'm not signing, I said quietly. My hands shook, but my voice held. A beat of silence. Then Dad roared, then you are no daughter of mine. The line went dead. I stood frozen in my kitchen, the hum of the fridge suddenly deafening. For a moment, guilt wrapped around my throat like a rope. What if I were selfish? What if I was destroying what little family I had left? I closed my eyes. Grandma's words surfaced like oxygen. They don't love her more, Emma. They love themselves more. And Melissa reflects what they wish they were. My phone buzzed again. This time, an unknown number. Emma, this is Attorney Miller. Your parents have contacted me about contesting the will. Just a heads up, they're claiming undue influence. I exhaled sharply. Undue influence? As if Grandma hadn't been sharp-minded to the very end, as if I had somehow manipulated her into loving me. The accusation burned, but beneath the anger was a flicker of grim satisfaction. If they were resorting to legal threats, they were desperate. That night, I sat at my tiny kitchen table, the orchid still glowing in the window, phone buzzing every few minutes. Melissa had escalated to voicemails, her sobs theatrical, her words carefully chosen. I can't sleep, Emma. My job depends on this house. If you cared about me at all, you'd share. Her job depended on the house? Lies wrapped in desperation. She already had a luxury apartment that our parents paid for. This wasn't about need, it was about entitlement. By midnight, my phone showed 84 unread messages. I turned it off. Finally, silence. I leaned back, eyes fixed on the ceiling. The war had begun. And though I was scared, terrified even, something inside me shifted. For the first time, I wasn't thinking of how to keep the peace. I was thinking of how to win. Daniel Wu's text was still saved in my drafts. Yes, Let's talk. I reached for my phone, powered it back on, and typed the words out fully. This time, I hit send. His response came in seconds. Understood. Confidential. Let's meet tomorrow. I placed the phone down and exhaled, the knot in my chest loosening ever so slightly. My family wanted to play hardball. Fine. I had just decided to change the game. The next evening, I met Daniel Wu in a quiet corner booth of a downtown Austin cafe. The place smelled of espresso and cinnamon rolls, low jazz humming in the background. Outside, the city buzzed with Friday night energy, but inside, it felt like a sealed vault. Daniel slid a folder across the table. Emma, I'll be direct. I want the Maple Avenue house, not for personal use, for business. My brows furrowed. Business? He nodded. We're expanding. The company needs a satellite office, something with character. A place that doesn't feel like another sterile corporate cube farm. Your grandmother's house is perfect. Location, structure, atmosphere. I'll pay above market value. Cash. And... He tapped the folder. We'll structure it with protections for you. 10-year lease, right of first refusal. You'll never lose your footing. I blinked. 10-year lease, right of first refusal. The words landed like lifelines. Still, my throat tightened. If I sell to you, they'll say I betrayed the family. They already think I'm selfish. Daniel's gaze sharpened. Emma, they've been calling you selfish your entire life. Does that make it true? Or does it just keep you under their control? Silence pressed heavily. He was right, but guilt still twisted inside me. I could hear Mom's voice, dripping with judgment. Family shares. Daniel leaned in, lowering his voice. Let me remind you. Melissa works for me now. That means her professional world intersects with mine. If this sale goes through, your family's power over you evaporates. They can't touch you legally. They can't threaten you emotionally. They'll be forced to face consequences. I exhaled slowly, fingers tracing the folder. The contract papers looked crisp, final. My grandmother's brass key lay in my purse, heavy with foreshadowing. But doubt clawed at me. Am I doing this to protect myself? Or just to hurt them? Daniel's expression softened. Does it matter? Protection always feels like revenge to people who thrived on your silence. The words hit me squarely. Protection, revenge, justice. 3 truths colliding. I opened the folder. Line after line confirmed what he promised. Clean sale, no loopholes, protective clauses just for me. Attorney Miller's signature as a witness. My pulse quickened. This wasn't a trap. It was freedom disguised as paperwork. Still, I hesitated. One sentence from Dad replayed in my mind. If you don't sell to us, you're no longer our daughter. I closed my eyes, letting the cafe sounds fade. In the stillness, I saw Grandma's rose garden. The thorns I'd pruned, the petals I'd nurtured. Her whisper, "This house will protect you someday." My eyes opened. My voice was steady. Let's do it. Daniel's smile was small but sure. Wise choice. We'll file it. Tomorrow. For the first time in days, I felt the rope of guilt loosen around my neck. The filing was swift. Attorney Miller confirmed it. Deed transferred, sale recorded at the county, funds wired. Official. Irreversible. 3 days later, I stood in Grandma's living room. My living room no longer. Movers carried in sleek desks and chairs, the scent of leather and new wood mixing with the faint lavender that still clung to the curtains. I ran my hand across the mantel, the grooves familiar, my pulse steady. Melissa's text popped up just then. Are you ready to do the right thing at the family meeting? We're bringing the realtor. Don't embarrass us. Embarrass us. My laugh came out bitter. If only she knew. That afternoon, the family meeting unfolded exactly as expected. Robert and Linda flanked Melissa like prosecutors. The realtor, Rebecca, sat smug with contracts. They talked over Attorney Miller, throwing around words like undue influence and mental capacity. Melissa dabbed fake tears, whispering, "I just want fairness." I stayed quiet. Chess, not checkers. Then, my phone buzzed. A single text from Daniel. Filed. Ready when you are. I looked across the table at my parents, their faces brimming with confidence. For a second, guilt pricked again. Maybe I should tell them now. Maybe I should give them a warning. But then I remembered every birthday forgotten, every milestone dismissed, every time they told me to sacrifice because I was stronger. The guilt dissolved. I stood. "If you want the house," I said calmly, "then let's go see it." Confusion rippled across their faces. Dad narrowed his eyes. "What game are you playing?" "No games," I said, grabbing my purse. "But if you're so desperate, come see what you're fighting for." The convoy to Maple Avenue felt like a funeral procession. My parents in one car, Melissa clutching tissues in the back seat, the realtor chattering strategy. Attorney Miller followed in her Lexus, silent, watching. I drove ahead, palms sweaty against the wheel, heart pounding with anticipation. As I turned the corner, the house came into view. Grandma's Victorian, white porch gleaming, roses blooming wild in the yard, and parked in the driveway, a white Tesla. Melissa gasped, even from her car. Her voice was a whisper carried through the rolled-down window. "That's my CEO's car." My lips curved into a cold smile. The trap was set, and they were walking right into it. The drive to Maple Avenue felt like a march to war. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles whitened. In the rearview mirror, I saw my parents' car tailing me, Melissa's pale face pressed against the window. Behind them, Attorney Miller's Lexus rolled steadily, like a silent judge. Every light turned red, every block dragged like an eternity. My chest thudded with a dangerous rhythm. Fear, guilt, anticipation. What if I'm wrong? What if selling to Daniel was a mistake? What if I really am the selfish one they say I am? The questions attacked in waves, but beneath them was another voice, calmer, sharper, stronger. This isn't selfish. This is survival. I remembered Grandma's words the night of my 16th birthday, when my parents forgot me entirely to celebrate Melissa's dance recital. She had held me in the garden, whispering, "They will always try to take from you. Don't let them. One day, you'll have to stand up for what's yours." That day had arrived. When I pulled into the driveway, my pulse nearly stopped. The white Tesla gleamed like a signal flare. Melissa's gasp echoed behind me. "That's Daniel Wu's car," she whispered, voice cracking. My father barked. What would he be doing here? I killed the engine, smoothed my skirt and stepped out, forcing my hands not to tremble. The air smelled of roses and fresh paint, the collision of past and present. My grandmother's sanctuary, now dressed in corporate precision. I turned to face them. "If you're so determined to claim this house, then let's finish this here." Suspicion darted through their eyes, but greed pushed them forward. Mom clutched Melissa's hand, whispering encouragement like a coach at halftime. The realtor shuffled her papers with smug confidence. As we approached the porch, the door swung open before I could knock. And there he was, Daniel Wu, in casual weekend attire that somehow screamed both wealth and authority. His eyes found mine, and for a brief second, the storm inside me quieted. "Mr. Wu?" Melissa's voice cracked, her composure unraveling. What are you doing here?" Daniel smiled politely. "Miss Reynolds." Perfect timing. My father's face reddened. "This is a private family matter." "No," Daniel said smoothly. "This is a business matter. I'm the owner of this property." The silence that followed was exquisite. My mother's mouth opened, closed. Melissa's face cycled through disbelief, horror, rage. The realtor blinked as if her script had vanished mid-performance. I stepped forward, voice steady. 3 days ago, I sold the house. The deed is filed, the funds transferred. It's done. Impossible, Dad snapped. You had no right. Actually, Attorney Miller said from behind, finally stepping up. She had every right. The will left the property solely to Emma. The sale was clean, above market value, and legally binding. The weight lifted from my chest as those words landed. This wasn't just emotion. It was fact. Irrefutable. Melissa swayed, gripping the porch rail. You sold Grandma's house to my boss? Daniel's tone was clipped but professional. Technically, to my investment company, for the purpose of expanding operations. The crowd of neighbors that had begun gathering on the sidewalk murmured. Mrs. Kim raised her phone, recording. Mr. Peterson openly grinned, popcorn in hand, as if this were primetime TV. For once, I didn't care who was watching. In fact, I welcomed it. Dad's voice roared, shaking the porch. You conspired to humiliate us. I met his glare. My hands still shook, but my voice cut clean. No, I conspired to survive you. And in that moment, the decision crystallized. I would not back down. Not now. Not ever again. Inside, movers carried sleek desks into what had once been Grandma's reading room. The scent of coffee and lavender mingled, the clash of memory and new purpose. My throat tightened, but not with regret, with resolve. I looked at Melissa, mascara streaking down her face, her career flashing before her eyes. You wanted this house for your promotion? Congratulations. It's your new office, and I'll be here every day to remind you whose name Grandma chose. Her sob was sharp, almost animal. My mother rushed to her side, hissing at me like I was a stranger. You've ruined her life. No, I said quietly, finally calm. I've stopped you from ruining mine. For a heartbeat, the world went still. Roses swayed in the evening breeze. The white Tesla gleamed under the fading sun. Grandma's brass key pressed against my palm in my pocket, a silent echo of her promise. The line had been drawn, and I had chosen my side. The porch creaked beneath our weight as Daniel Wu stood in the doorway, his posture casual but commanding. The evening sun slanted across the white siding of the house, turning every detail sharp, like the stage lights of a theater. And my family, for once, weren't the stars. Melissa's voice cracked first. Mr. Wu, you're my CEO. This has to be some kind of mistake. Daniel adjusted his cufflinks with deliberate calm. Not a mistake, Ms. Reynolds. A transaction. I purchased this property 3 days ago. The silence that followed was delicious. My father's mouth opened, shut, opened again, like a fish gasping on dry land. My mother's eyes darted between me and Daniel, searching for some loophole, some way to twist this back into her control. Finally, Dad roared, his face turning crimson. This is fraud. You manipulated her. Daniel's smile was razor thin. I paid $800,000, $20,000 above asking. If anyone was taken advantage of, it was me. But I wanted this house. Its location is perfect for my team neighbors, whispered from the sidewalk. Phones lifted, recording every word. Mrs. Kim clutched her pearls, mouthing, "Oh my God." Mr. Peterson grinned like he'd bought front-row tickets. Melissa staggered forward, mascara streaking down her cheeks. You can't do this. This is my future. My promotion depends on... Your promotion depends on your performance, Daniel interrupted smoothly. And starting Monday, your performance will take place right here. This house has been designated as a satellite office for your department. Her knees buckled. She caught herself on the porch, rail, sobbing. You can't make me work here. This is harassment. It's torture. Daniel's gaze hardened. It's business. The marketing team needs a collaborative space, and this location is ideal. You're welcome to request a transfer, though HR would treat that as a demotion. The blow landed. Melissa's sobs cut off, replaced by stunned silence. Mom surged forward, rage trembling in her voice. "You vindictive little snake!" She jabbed a finger at me. "You planned this to humiliate us." I stepped back, my hand brushing the brass key in my pocket. Calm, cold, exact. "No, Mom. I planned this to survive you." Dad barked. "You are out of this family, Emma. Forever." Finally, I let my smile show. "Promise?" The crowd gasped. Some laughed. The humiliation painted my parents' faces scarlet. Attorney Miller stepped up then, briefcase in hand. Her voice cut through the chaos like a gavel. "The deed transfer was filed with the county 3 days ago. This property legally belongs to Mr. Wu. All claims to the contrary are baseless. Any attempt to contest will fail. And if you continue trespassing, the police will be notified." As if on cue, Daniel pulled out his phone. "In fact, I've already made the call." For everyone's safety, Melissa's wail pierced the air. "You've destroyed me." "No," I said quietly, the roses swaying in the evening breeze behind me. "I've freed myself." The movers arrived then, unloading sleek desks and chairs from a truck. The thud of furniture on the porch made the scene almost absurd. My grandmother's sanctuary transforming into Melissa's workplace, poetic justice in real time. Melissa stumbled toward me, face twisted with rage. "You'll regret this. You think you've won, but you're still alone. When he gets tired of you, when the family is gone, you'll have nothing." I met her eyes, voice flat. "I'll still have peace. Something you'll never understand." The neighbors' murmurs grew louder. Some clapped. Someone whistled. A teenager live-streamed the whole thing on TikTok. My parents stood frozen, reputations unraveling in front of their own community. Dad growled, "Will sue?" Attorney Miller pulled papers from her case, spreading them across the hood of her Lexus like evidence at trial. "Here's the deed transfer, notarized and filed. The wire transfer cleared 3 days ago. Emma had full legal rights. There is no lawsuit here. Only consequences, consequences." The word rang out like a bell. Daniel nodded. "Melissa, you'll report here Monday morning. Emma, as per our agreement, you'll maintain your lease upstairs. Boundaries will be respected. Any harassment will result in immediate termination." Melissa gasped, mascara smearing anew. "Termination? You can't fire me for this." "No," Daniel replied calmly, "but I can fire you for unprofessional behavior. Consider this your chance to prove you're more than." Your parents' puppet mom lunged forward, but Daniel's hand lifted, steady as stone. "Mrs. Reynolds, you are trespassing. Leave now or the police will escort you." The red and blue lights appeared at the corner. A police cruiser rolled slowly into view. For the first time in my life, the power balance had shifted. They were the desperate ones. I was the calm one. I let the silence stretch, then spoke, voice clear enough for every neighbor to hear. "This house was my grandmother's gift. And for once, I chose to protect myself instead of sacrificing for you." The words hung in the air, undeniable. Mom's final shot came, bitter and trembling. "You've chosen strangers over family." I met her gaze without flinching. "No, I chose myself over people who never chose me." And in that moment, for the first time, I felt the chains snap. The police cruiser idled at the curb, its quiet presence enough to scatter the last shreds of my parents' defiance. Robert's jaw worked furiously, but Linda tugged his arm, whispering that they should leave before the neighbors saw any more. As if the neighbors hadn't already recorded every humiliating second. Melissa refused to move. She stood on the porch steps, shaking, mascara streaked down her face. "I can't work here," she choked out, staring at the movers unloading sleek whiteboards and ergonomic chairs. "I won't do it." Daniel's tone was steady, unbothered. "That's your choice, Ms. Reynolds. But refusing a reasonable assignment is insubordination. HR can discuss an exit package if you'd prefer." The The words landed like iron. Melissa's protest wilted. For the first time, she had no safety net. Mom hissed, "You'll regret this, Emma. You've ruined your sister's career." I stepped forward, the brass key heavy in my pocket, my voice cold but even. "No. I didn't ruin anything. She still has a job. You still have each other. The only difference is that I finally chose myself." The crowd murmured. Approval, disbelief, even applause. It didn't matter. What mattered was the way my parents' faces collapsed under the weight of losing control. When their car finally pulled away, taillights fading into the night, a strange quiet settled over the street. The porch light flickered on, casting the roses into a soft glow. For a moment, I stood perfectly still, breathing in the scent of lavender and earth. Grandma's house had survived another storm. So had I. Inside, movers assembled desks where we once played chess. The hum of drills mixed with the memory of Grandma's voice teaching me patience, pain, betrayal, justice. 3 words circling in my mind like a mantra. My phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. Contract finalized. Lease agreement filed. You're secure for 10 years. Right of first refusal intact 10 years. A decade of stability. A future no ultimatum could strip away. I sank into Grandma's old rocking chair, the one she used to sit in while reading novels on rainy afternoons. The wood creaked under my weight. Familiar. Grounding. My heart was still racing, but for the first time in weeks, the knot in my chest loosened. And yet, guilt whispered still. Was I too harsh? Too cold? Could I have found a softer way? The answer came with brutal clarity. No. Softer had never worked. Softer had always meant losing. I looked around the room, now half office, half memorial. The contrast was jarring but symbolic. Life was moving forward, and I was steering it this time. By the end of that week, the fallout spread like wildfire. My parents painted me as the villain on Facebook. When money matters more than love, daughters can be cruel. But the neighbors' group chat told a different story, snapping photos of Robert's red face, mocking Linda's dramatics, and celebrating the poetic justice. The cousins picked sides. Some condemned me. Others sent private messages that began with, "I wish I had your courage." Melissa reported to the new satellite office on Monday. I watched from the upstairs window as she sat in her car for 5 full minutes, clutching the steering wheel, before forcing herself inside. The look on her face when she glanced up at me was worth every scar I'd carried. She wasn't destroyed. She was living with consequences. And me? For the first time, I felt free. Free from the endless guilt trips. Free from being the expendable daughter. Free from the weight of keeping peace at the expense of my own worth. I whispered into the empty room, as if Grandma could still hear. I stood up for myself. 3 times, like a vow. I stood up for myself. I stood up for myself. I stood up for myself. The words echoed off the walls, stronger each time, until they no longer sounded like defense, but like triumph. Now it's your turn. If your family demanded you give up what was rightfully yours, would you comply to keep the peace? Or would you fight back, even if it meant standing alone? Tell me in the comments, are you Team Emma or Team Family? Because sometimes the only way to reclaim your worth is to risk everything. Monday morning dawned sharp and bright, the kind of Texas heat that clings to your skin before breakfast. From my upstairs window, I watched a line of cars pull up along Maple Avenue. Sleek sedans, polished SUVs, Daniel's leadership team arriving for their first site meeting. And then, right on cue, Melissa's black Lexus slid into the driveway at 8:58 a.m. She sat frozen behind the wheel, fingers white-knuckled on the steering wheel. 5 minutes ticked by, then 10. Finally, she climbed out, head bowed, heels clicking like gunshots on the pavement. I sipped my coffee slowly, savoring the view. She walked through the front gate, eyes darting up toward my window. Our gazes met. Her lips parted, trembling between rage and despair. I lifted my cup in a silent toast. Her face crumpled, and she disappeared inside. Downstairs, through the old vents, I heard Daniel's voice carry, "Welcome, everyone. Today marks a new chapter for our team." Applause followed, corporate energy vibrating through the floors that once held Grandma's Sunday dinners. And layered within that hum, Melissa's voice, quieter, uncertain, stripped of its former confidence. This was justice. Not in a courtroom, not with a gavel. Justice in the form of consequences she couldn't buy her way out of. By noon, the texts began. "Mom, how could you humiliate your sister like this?" She came home in tears. "Dad, you think you've won, but this family will never forgive you." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the email from Attorney Miller confirming the lease filing. 10 years of legal protection, right of first refusal secured. Words on a page? Yes. But to me, they were armor. I leaned back in Grandma's rocking chair, letting the rhythm calm my pulse. The scent of roses drifted through the open window, carried by the breeze. Circularity. The same roses I once whispered my loneliness to now stood as witnesses to my defiance. That evening, I took a walk through the garden. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in streaks of pink and orange. My neighbors waved from their porches. Mrs. Kim called out, "Eleanor would be proud of you." The words hit me harder than I expected. My throat tightened, eyes stinging. For years, I had been invisible. Now, even strangers saw me. Melissa stormed past me on her way to her car, muttering under her breath, "You think this is over? You've trapped me." I stopped, voice level but sharp. "No, Melissa. You trapped yourself the day you tried to take what wasn't yours." She froze, eyes flashing. For once, she had no script to fall back on, no parents rushing to defend her. Just her, and me, and the truth between us. Later that night, I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, reviewing spreadsheets for a new client. Work, stability, freedom. All in the house tried to strip me. My phone buzzed again. A message from Daniel. "First day went well. Your sister performed adequately. Just thought you should know." I smiled faintly, not gloating, just satisfied. Justice wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was the quiet shift of power, the subtle balance finally tilting in your favor. I whispered into the stillness, 3 times for certainty. I reclaim my worth. I reclaim my worth. I reclaim my worth. And this time, it didn't sound like a plea. It sounded like the truth. 3 weeks later, the house had settled into its new rhythm. Business below, sanctuary above. Downstairs, keyboards clicked, whiteboards filled with marketing jargon, and Melissa trudged through meetings with a hollow stare. Upstairs, my world was quiet. Grandma's china still gleamed in the cabinets, her rocking chair still creaked in the evenings, and the roses outside bloomed wilder than ever. I'd carved out a home office in the upstairs study. Sunlight poured across my desk every morning, turning spreadsheets into golden sheets of victory. I landed 2 new consulting clients within the first month. Ironic, considering Melissa's team downstairs was struggling to hit their quotas. While she floundered in forced proximity, I thrived in the very space they tried to steal. Sometimes, through the vents, I'd hear fragments of her complaints. "It's unbearable working here. She watches me. I can't focus." Every word was soaked in the irony she couldn't escape. I didn't gloat. I simply let the truth do the work. One evening, after finishing a call with a client, I wandered into the garden. The roses glowed under string lights Daniel's team had strung up for late-night work sessions. I knelt by the soil, hands brushing petals soft as silk. A memory surfaced. 16-year-old me, crying into Grandma's shoulder as she whispered, This house will protect you someday. She was right. I pulled a small notebook from my pocket, the one where I now scribbled affirmations. On that night's page, I wrote, I am not selfish. I am secure. The stillness of the garden wrapped around me. It wasn't silence born of neglect anymore. It was peace earned through battle. Not that the storm had vanished. My parents continued their campaign online, twisting the story into melodrama. Daughter betrays family for money. Relatives sent me screenshots, some condemning, some applauding. I didn't respond to any of it. I had learned the power of not answering. Melissa, however, couldn't hide. Every morning she walked past my door. Every afternoon, she sat in what used to be Grandma's reading room, now her office. Consequences. Living, breathing consequences. One Friday, I found her sitting on the porch after work, mascara smudged, staring at the roses. For a flicker of a second, she looked almost human, small, tired, broken. Emma, she whispered when she noticed me. This isn't fair. I tilted my head. Fair? You tried to take what Grandma left me. You called me selfish for not surrendering. Now you're living in the space you coveted. That's not torture. That's justice. Her lips trembled. She stood without another word and walked to her car. I watched her taillights disappear. A strange ache pressed in my chest. Not sympathy, not gloating. Something in between. Maybe grief for the sister I'd never truly had. That weekend, I invited Mrs. Kim over for tea. She brought lemon cookies, and we sat in the garden swapping stories of Grandma. For the first time in years, I felt rooted, not tolerated, not invisible. Rooted. As the sun set, painting the sky in pink streaks, I whispered again, like a prayer. I stood up for myself, and the roses swayed as if they agreed. This was recovery, not erasing the scars but wearing them openly. Not waiting for family validation, but building a life where I didn't need it. For the first time, the house was no longer a battlefield. It was mine. Secure, steady, sacred. 6 months passed. The Maple Avenue house had transformed completely. Downstairs, the satellite office buzzed daily with strategy meetings and coffee runs. Upstairs, my consulting business doubled, then tripled. My reputation grew. Clients referred me, neighbors respected me, and even strangers stopped me at the farmer's market to whisper, "Good for you." You did what we all wish we could. Melissa, on the other hand, was unraveling. I watched it happen piece by piece. Her performance slipped, her charm faded, and Daniel's patience thinned. Eventually, she was placed on a performance improvement plan, PIP, the corporate death sentence. The golden child's shine had dimmed under the weight of reality. One evening, she stormed out of the office, slamming the porch door so hard the roses shook. Our eyes met across the yard. Her voice cracked with venom. "You ruined my life." I answered calmly, almost softly. "No, Melissa. I just stopped you from ruining mine." She had no reply, just silence. My parents tried once more to summon me to a family meeting. I declined. I didn't need their stage-managed apologies, their backhanded guilt trips. For the first time, I didn't crave their approval, because I had found something stronger, my own. At night, I often sat in Grandma's rocking chair, sipping tea, the brass key still warm in my palm. Circularity. The same key she gave me as a teenager, telling me the house would protect me. It had. Not by shielding me from conflict, but by giving me the battlefield to finally win. I whispered the words again, steady and sure. I reclaim my worth. I reclaim my worth. I reclaim my worth. Not desperation. Not defiance. Truth. The roses outside bloomed thicker than ever that spring, wild and defiant, thriving despite thorns. I tended them carefully, each cut deliberate, each blossom earned. They were a mirror of me, scarred, resilient, unshakably alive. I no longer wondered if my family would ever be proud of me. I no longer needed their applause. Respect wasn't theirs to give, it was mine to claim. So here I am, stronger, freer, finally unbroken. But let me ask you, what would you have done? If your parents demanded you surrender what was rightfully yours, would you fold to keep the peace? Or would you risk everything to claim your worth? Drop your answer in the comments, Team Emma or Team Family, because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't forgiving those who betrayed you. It's refusing to betray yourself. The house on Maple Avenue no longer feels like a battlefield. It feels like a monument to resilience, to boundaries, to the courage of finally saying no. When I sit on the porch at dusk, rocking chair creaking beneath me, I can almost hear Grandma's voice carried on the wind. This house will protect you someday. She was right, but not in the way I expected. The house didn't protect me by shielding me from pain. It protected me by giving me the ground to fight back, to plant my feet, to reclaim what was mine. I used to believe survival meant silence, keeping the peace, giving up pieces of myself so others could stay comfortable. But peace built on silence isn't peace at all. It's a prison. I chose differently. And in choosing myself, I discovered something powerful. Worth is not given. Worth is claimed. Yes, I lost whatever illusion of family I once had. But I gained something better. Freedom. Stability. And a future where I no longer beg for scraps of recognition. I don't need to prove myself to people who were never looking. Every morning now, I water the roses in Grandma's garden. Their petals are bright, their thorns sharp, their roots unshakable. They remind me of who I've become. Strong, beautiful, protected. And every night before I turn out the lights, I whisper the same words. I stood up for myself. 3 times. Like a prayer. Like a promise. Like a victory. Now it's your turn. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you sacrifice your inheritance to keep your family comfortable? Or would you risk standing alone to defend your worth? Comment below, Team Emma or Team Family? Because family isn't about obligation. It isn't about control. Family, real family, is about respect. And if you're not given that respect, you have every right to walk away and build a life where your value isn't questioned, but celebrated. Your worth isn't defined by others, it's defined by you. So fight for it, reclaim it, protect it, just like I did.